So what I'm going to ask you, Frank, is I'm going to ask you to reach in, pull out a question. I'm going to ask you that question. Have fun with it.
All right, then.
We have about 7 minutes.
Okay.
And then you're going to hear the duck quack, like that. How'd it go? So 7 minutes from the time he starts to answer. All right, Frank, you have created a monster. What kind of a monster is it, and what does it do?
I think the best kind of monsters are the ones that don't have any supernatural powers. One of my favorite films is Raising Cain, where he had split personality, so each monster was just a real person. So I would deal with someone who is real, and the monster was just inside of him, and it's all psychological, because real is always trumped fiction in the way of scary and horrifying.
That's absolutely true.
Yes, one of my favorite series is the Saw series, because he's not a creature who can just do this to you and do that to you. He just thinks about it, and he makes these incredible torture devices, and they get really elaborate, and there's a reason behind each one of them, and you're thinking, that guy does deserve it, or he could have done something to make himself get it out of it, or the pain is, there's a purpose to it all.
Wow, and that sounds super scary too.
Yes.
Is there anything scary in your book that you're promoting?
Mostly the scary in the book is mostly, at this particular time, it's about people not getting along with what they don't understand or they feel is a danger to the norm. Religion, I'm religious, but there are always those who just take it a little bit too far and feel that because they are this particular type of individual, that they are righteous and they are allowed to be who they're allowed to be mad or dangerous too.
Now that is scary, because that to me is the religious person who says, join my club or you are going to hell. And that's scary.
God has never been, at least to me, God has never been about punishing those who just don't believe in him. I always felt he was always too powerful, or more importantly, just had way too much more to think about than the one guy who said, oh, I don't believe in you.
Exactly. I feel that we're all a part of him, you know, and he creates a lot of different people, different ways, and that's just however it is. Tell me about your book, please, and what you get into.
The title is called Crosses and Silver Bullets, a Love Story. It's about a werewolf and a vampire that might fall in love if it wasn't for the small fact that a zealot religious faction is trying to kill them both, and all supernatural creatures across the world. It's a female werewolf, which is rare in most stories, who's a lead, and a African-American vampire, which is very rare since Blackula, where there's been a vampire of color. And best of all, there are no shiny vampires in the book.
That is great. How did you come to write this? How did this come to you?
The book started off as, well, actually, someone once asked me just to write because I had a big imagination to write a story. Then I wrote like one chapter and they said go on, and then I went on and then went on and went on until it became a book. The story came from, this particular group of characters came from a story I had back in my head, and I just focused on those two characters to make this story and then added on to that world as I wrote the book. So, you know, you're writing this and then you think about something, you gotta go back and then rewrite it so it fits into the book. But basically, these two characters came from a much bigger story, which I'm hoping to do in the future. And right now, I do have a second book pending from this one that that finally got published last year in February, and so I'm hoping the next book will be done by the end of the year and be ready to publish by February of next year, before Valentine's Day.
Excellent. How exciting is that?
Oh, that is exciting. I mean, when I have in the afterwards the whole entire story, but to cut it short I was working, I had a good job, but I was writing, but mostly in my head, but the drive to write was just gone, because it just came down to waking up, going to work, paying the bills, going back to sleep, and then at the time I just wasn't writing anymore. And then one day I got this inspiration to write a story which was completely different from this story. You know, I was going to work, and then every free moment I had, or this free second, I wrote on scratch paper, went home, and then wrote into a notebook, and then it inspired me to saying it's time to do something about it. And relatives were giving me encouragement. My stepmom told me about a website that will help you publish, and I did. I went to WonderCon, I found an amazing artist who can deal with my OCD and had a lot of patience with it. So, and I worked with her again on the second book, and so that's Jessie Martell, if anyone's asking. And from there, wrote this first story, and from there decided to write the second story, and I have a third story, but I have another book between those two, which I'm going to do, which is completely off, not in the storyline of this book.
There may be writers listening that might like to know about that publishing website. How do you like them, and what are they?
That is createspace.com, www.createspace.com. They will help you out. They also have 24-hour service, so you can actually talk to people, because I did need to talk to them about a lot. And the first time the book came to me, and I was thinking, oh my God, it's actually, when you actually have the book in your hands, it just says, are you there yet? Are you there yet? And then when you do your first book signing, it's really good. But I'm not going to lie to you, there's been, sometimes I've gone to a book signing and then no one buys, well, not a book signing, but to sell the book, and no one buys the book, but you can't be discouraged, because if you get discouraged, you're just going to say give up and go back to the life that you didn't want, that you left in the first place. Sometimes it's just basically, you got to keep going on until, so, but fair warning, do not buy about 200 books.
So you now have books all over in your garage
luckily,
and stuff.
Yeah, I have not done that, luckily. So just keep it down to a 20 to each book signing if you have some left, and add a little bit on, but don't go crazy thinking you're going to become the next Stephen King overnight, because you probably are not going to be, and you're probably going to have a whole bunch of books in your closet.
Give me advice on what we podcasters call building your tribe, building your community of people that are going to really love your books and your forthcoming books. How do you do that?
Right now, in this day and era, it's social media all the way. You got to go on Facebook, you got to go on Twitter, you got to go on, and mostly just be out there yourself, shaking people's hands, telling yourself about it. Don't try to push the book on them, but if you can get like 2 minutes of their time, you have a 30-second rant about your book, and some cards and some flyers so they can take it home with you and check it out themselves.
You're the second author in about 15 minutes to tell me have an elevator speech.
Pardon me?
You're the second author or creator in about 15 minutes to tell me have an elevator speech, have a pitch that if somebody's getting into an elevator and getting out of it, you can just say something really quick.
All right then. Best part about this book, there's no shiny vampires, so you're probably going to enjoy it very much. Your female lead is a werewolf, which means there's a lot of drama. And because I always feel that women display much drama, and werewolves have a whole lot of passion. So do women. Your male, he might be a little stiff, and he might be a little stiff to you. But trust me, after 200 years, he's learned to control his temper, except when he's around her. So that means there's a love affair happening, just like every man and woman everywhere.
That's a great elevator pitch. And our duck is, I think, quacking.
Okay, I hear the duck quacking, so I better be quacking off.
Before you quack off, please give me your website where people can find your book.
Okay, then that's www.createspace.com at /60757779, or you can email me at crossthesilverbullets@gmail.com, and then there's jessie.martell.art@gmail.com for her. We're also available on Amazon and through where you can get a hard copy or an ebook version of the book.
This has been great, Frank. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much for the interview. Bye-bye.